Welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. When you're ready to transform your sales for today's transforming market, we've got you covered with your host, the queen of cold calling and founder of Salesology, award-winning author, speaker, sales trainer, and coach, Wendy Weiss.
Hi, welcome to Salesology, conversations with sales leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. And I'm your host, Wendy Weiss. I am the founder of Salesology and creator of the Salesology prospecting method. And I'm also known as the queen of cold calling. So today, my very special guest is John Noonan. He is the president and fractional CRO of Growth Plan Partners. And Growth Plan Partners is a company that helps small and medium-sized businesses create record-breaking sales growth. That's why John's here, to talk about record-breaking sales growth. And he's a certified sales leader. He's a Vistage Trusted Advisor. And he leverages 30-plus years of experience in sales and marketing, as well as an MBA in marketing and finance, to provide strategic guidance and leadership to his clients. And John's mission is to build a path to more sales for SMBs that struggle to grow their sales or that need guidance to get to the next level and beyond. And he does this by creating and implementing sales strategy and plans, finding and targeting the best customers, and growing and optimizing the sales pipeline. He also coaches and mentors business owners, sales leaders, and sales teams to develop their skills and confidence. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Wendy. Quite the introduction. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, well, my pleasure. You sent it to me. So now we want the backstory.
Sure.
How did you become the president and fractional CRO at Growth Plan Partners?
Thank you. Yeah. So as you mentioned there, probably 35 plus years in corporate America. So I worked for many, many companies, starting in sales myself, quickly discovering I wanted to be a sales leader, and got some great coaching and help from a $2 billion company that I worked for, Avery Dennison, for years. And thus started my career in sales management, mostly as an EVP of sales and marketing for about a half a dozen companies or so. And many of them private equity held and owned, where I was a fractional owner. Usually the executive team owns about 15% of private equity deals. And what it does is it helps us all get focused, because in essence, we have skin in the game, right? So we don't just worry about our little department, we worry about how the entire company operates. So it gives us a little broader perspective and a little broader concern to help the organization move forward. But after 35 years of doing that, having lots of fun, moving the Titanic around, as they say, and moving the needle a little bit, along came COVID, and I decided to go out on my own. So just 3 years ago now, I started Growth Plan Partners. And as you said, I act mostly as a fractional chief revenue officer, head of sales, helping small and mid-sized businesses grow. So using all of these unique talents and processes that, I've used with much larger customers. And then I am also a sales acceleration advisor. And what that is a group of about 200 of us around the country, where we highly vetted. We have at least 20 years of sales leadership experience. And then we pool our knowledges, best practices, tools, and corporates out there looking for the latest and greatest. So it's not just me. I have access to this entire network, and sometimes in co-advise with other for clients, basically because of our background or experience from our corporate world. We kind of bring that to the table to maybe get up a little faster with the client. So that's what I did and where I am today.
Okay. So I'm curious, what is the difference between a CRO, Chief Revenue Officer, and a CSO, Chief Sales Officer?
Okay, thank you. We're in the world of C's, right? The C suites I'm hearing all different kinds of names for human resource people and everything else. But in essence, a chief revenue officer is involved with all of the elements, focusing on the strategy and the implementation for revenue generation in the company. And that generally includes both sales and marketing. Okay. Quite often we get, siloed in our little, responsibilities. And having spent 35 years in corporate America as an EVP of sales and marketing, I understand the importance of the alignment between the two. You hear this a lot, especially in bigger companies where they kind of go off on their divergent paths. Marketing is doing their thing. Sales doesn't even know what they're doing. Things are being put out. Leads are coming in. Nobody understands them. That tends to happen in larger companies where there isn't a lot of conference, if you will, between the two groups. So my job is to really focus on the sales efforts first, but then also to look at the marketing efforts to make sure there's a strategy there that everybody understands, and, that content is created for both print and for, presentation by the sales team that's cohesive, that's understandable, that's what the company wants to do. I spend a lot of time with companies at the front end talking about what is their unique value proposition, right? What do they bring to the world? Okay. And, quite often we hear the same old things, right? Well, great service, high quality, good pricing, but everybody's saying that. So how do you really discern whether somebody's right for you? We have to dig a little deeper and find out what the DNA of this company is, what they really bring to the table, and then discover that and promote that, along with then working with the sales and marketing teams to determine who's our ideal client, who are we going to go after to tell this story, okay, in both marketing efforts and sales efforts, to best find ideal clients that we can serve well.
Okay. So let me ask you about finding that ideal prospect or that ideal client, because to me, this is where it all begins.
Mm-hmm.
And what I see is a lot of companies that just kind of don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you narrow that down? If you're working with a client and they're, well, everybody. So what is your process for narrowing that down?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. Well, in my book, everybody is nobody, right? Because it's just, you can't comprehend that. So, again, once we understand our true value proposition, and most of the companies I work with have been in business for a significant amount of time, whether that's 5 years, 10 years, somewhere in there, they've obtained, $5 million, $10 million, $20 million in sales. So it's not generally startups. So they have a significant amount of business that they've done. And let's look at those clients first, right? Who have we satisfied to date? All right. And let's focus on those types of people, be it the market that they're in, or the type of person that they are, or the industry that they serve. Let's take more of those first. All right. So that's where we're going to look first. And then we're also going to talk about, okay, where might be aligned and where can we go next in a path of least resistance, right? We don't want to, if we're a manufacturer, I'll just make something up. If we're a manufacturer of printed, glassware, we're not going to go into the oil business. That just doesn't make sense. We don't have the capacity, right? We need to see, okay, where else is glassware used? Maybe it's used in the gift giving industry, but then it's also used at, dining facilities where they have parties or something like that. So we're going to sit down and kind of go through what's our value proposition? Then we look at our ideal clients. So to get a little deeper to answer your question, once we decide on those industries, okay, those industries we want to serve, now we have to figure out how to find those people. And there's a lot of tools today. And here comes AI to help us today, which is great. Okay. There are a tremendous number of tools out there today where not only can we, define and search for, potential buyers, in the industries that we want, in the geography that we want, with the titles that we want. Okay. We can do that. And we'll develop these nice lists. But again, then you have lists of hundreds or thousands of potential clients. How do you sort those out to figure out where to start? Okay. And whether it's, starting to send emails and then make phone calls, like I know your organization does extremely well, which ones should we start with? All right. And that's where AI starts to come in, because now AI is taking those names and contacts and relationships and searching all kinds of databases. They're looking at LinkedIn. They're looking at your internal CRM. They're looking at your emails system that you have internally and trying to figure out where are the most deep relationships or greatest commonalities. Okay. So for example, it might, there's a list of 1,000. These systems today will rank them and say you have the highest probability of success if you start here and move your way down. And I've ranked them again based on either connections that you have somehow through LinkedIn or you did business previously, because we know business is about know, like, and trust. We hear that commonly, right? You get to know somebody, then you like them, then you trust them type of thing. So it takes a little while to build that. So why not start with the highest level of that trust is already there? And that's really what these AI systems are trying to do. They're trying to find those people that you're connected on LinkedIn, or you have an employee that knows this person, or maybe you went to the same schools and there's a commonality there. We all want something in common with somebody, and it helps us trust them quicker. And the quicker we can trust somebody, the quicker we can get into the discussions of, does this business make sense for the two of us to do? So hopefully that's a little better description of how we get started and what we do and how we use AI to assist us today.
Okay, so do you have a favorite AI tool that does what you're talking about?
I actually do. It's called KnowledgeNet with a KNOWLEDGENET. So knowledgenet.ai. Very, very cool. It's a system whereby, they can put these bots, if you will, on all of your information systems. And as you generate and you look for potential clients, okay, lists will be generated and people's names will come up. But then it'll show you kind of a relationship map, like, okay, who this person is possibly related to you, how? Either someone in your organization knows them, you've done business before, again, those commonalities and those relationships that I've talked about. So it's probably one of the least expensive options out there today compared to some of these others. And they're really kind of getting to the front and, a leadership position in the use of AI with their tool.
Oh, well, that's a very handy tip. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And so I was looking at your website in preparation for this interview. And one of the things that I noticed was you talk a lot about your first step as being an assessment. So what are you looking at if you're going to assess how a company, how a sales team is doing with the idea that helping them grow and helping them generate revenue? What are you looking at? What are you looking for?
Appreciate that. Yeah. So, I kind of pride myself on how I work with clients by doing this assessment first. So, I hope it's really more of like being like a physician. Okay, let's do the triage before we start the treatment. Okay, I do not have a binder. I do not start at page 1. Okay, I'm using all my experience and my tools and technology first to assess where are we. Okay, so what is this assessment tool? This assessment tool was developed over time. We have a short version of it, a 10 question, and then once we get through that, we go to a deeper assessment. That's about 45 questions, but it's been developed over the past 10 years. And it looks at 4 basic areas within your organization. Okay, the first being sales strategy, right? How you position yourself in your industry and your competitors and your value prop, what I talked about before. Second area it looks at is sales methodology. Okay, if do you have a CRM system? Are you documenting everything? What processes do you have? What is your sales process? Is it defined, documented, and clearly, defined for the sales team? And then that also includes territories and coverage and how you go to market. Thirdly, it looks at the sales organization itself. If you're using salespeople, who are they? How did you find them? How are they trained? What is their skill set? Are their roles and responsibilities clearly set? Okay. And that involves the hiring and firing and making sure you have the right kind of salespeople. We've used these two different terms of, hunters and farmers kind of thing. You want the hunters out there, bringing in the new business, and the farmers maybe are inside taking care of them. So, we work with them all. We need to understand how many of each we need in each organization. And then the fourth area we look at is what we call sales analysis. Okay. The old adage, what gets measured gets improved, right? So where are these measurements of goals and metrics for the salespeople, sales forecasting and reporting, and then even compensation and incentives? Does everybody understand how much they can make, will make, and are they being properly motivated to do what the company needs to do? So those are the four basic areas. And there's a series of questions around those. And then we can come back and say, hey, you're doing a lot of good stuff here. Oh, you have to get to this point. Okay. But here's the missing pieces. Here's the goal that we can start to work on. Once we get these in place and we get these corrected, then we can really catapult the growth at the organization.
Okay. So for someone, a sales leader that's looking at their organization, can you give us some do's and don'ts within the 4 areas that you just laid out?
Sure. I have my kind of top 10, so I'll go through them as quickly as I can. But number 1, get a defined sales strategy. You have to sit down and really visualize the process you go through with the client, okay? And you need to document it, from the minute you're going to make contact with them, through the demonstration process, the quotation process. Maybe you have something that requires artwork and renderings, et cetera. But you have to define that and make sure everybody understands the process and follows it. Number 9 is kind of, again, clearly define everybody's goals and set up these KPIs. It's amazing. I go into these businesses, 10, 20, $40 million, no quotas, no sales goals. Everybody's just kind of like, well, what do you expect? More than last year? If we can do more, you want to do $1 more? You want to do $500? We've got to get goals, and all the goals have to add up to the company goal. There can't be this fuzzy little, fat wallet thing that they call it. We're going to make it up over here. So getting clear on goals, KPIs, make sure they're published. It's the old adage, you can't score a touchdown if you don't know where the goal line is. Okay, so you really need to define those. Number 8, weekly meetings. I'm a huge believer in weekly meetings that have a purpose. Trust me, we don't want to just get together and yap, okay? But I'm a big fan of EOS, or the Entrepreneur Operating System, if anybody's familiar with that. And their cadence for meetings, called an L10, is very good. I'm not going to go into it deeply here, but we're going to get real strategic on goals, objectives, what we're going to accomplish, and what we did last week, and what we have to do this week to move forward, and do the one-to-ones and the coaching. I think that's essential too with the salespeople. Everybody needs a little bit of extra attention and personalized attention. Okay. We need to create or conduct sales training, right? Do our people, have they been trained? Do they have the skills? People get brought in and they thrown into a swimming pool and forgotten about sometimes. It's like, let's make sure they have the latest and greatest tools, especially new things like this AI, how to use it. Don't let them stumble around on their own. Give them the proper training. And that's leveraging the sales technology is my next one. Making sure you have the AI, you have these AI-based lead generation systems, you have a good CRM system. I don't know how a business runs today without a solid CRM system. I really don't. It's a great insurance policy, and I'm happy to discuss this with anybody. And they're getting very, very inexpensive in my book. Okay. You can do it on a per person, per month basis. These aren't tens of thousands of dollars by any means. I can show you a very, very cost-effective one, even just to get started. Then we got to build a sales playbook. Okay. I prefer to see this online and usable there, but even if it's in printed format, everybody needs a playbook to go to. What are we supposed to do? Who are our clients? What are our processes? How do we do things? You've got to document that. Too much of today's business is in the owner's mind and available only upon verbal request. And you can't grow a business if you don't have those. Number three, it's all about picking the right people in the right seats, having a good, recruiting process. And then on top of that, an onboarding process. We tend to forget that. We find hiring good people and then we just throw them into the mix. But where's that onboarding? Teach them who we are, what they should do, etc. Number two is to build a comp plan that incents behavior. Sometimes too often business leaders, when you're small, sometimes you have to pay more to get the right people, right? And they leave those compensation plans in effect that sometimes can, get salespeople to get a little lazy, right? Hey, if they're making an income and they're paid on everything, they haven't adjusted their comp plans to support their business goals, I guess is what I'm saying. So make sure you look at those. And then number one is good, proper sales management. I mean, even if you have a sales manager today, get that person some training, okay? There are new tools and processes and systems out there every day. I'm glad I'm part of Sales Acceleration because I've got teams of hundreds around me that are looking at the latest and greatest and bringing those, ideas to the table rather than me having to figure it all out myself. So sorry for the long list, but those are the things. Any one of those, grab a few of those. I'm happy to talk about those. Pick 2 or 3 of them, and I am convinced you will start to grow your sales from there.
Hey, well, we are going to pause now for a word from our sponsor, but when we come back, I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, John, because I want to know more about documentation and the sales playbook, because it just seems to be something that is so difficult for most companies to do.
Sure.
So we're going to talk about that in a moment.
Thanks.
But now we have a word from our sponsor, the Salesology Vault. And just about every guest that I have interviewed on the Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders podcast has had a free gift for our listeners. And that does include my special guest today, John Noonan, who is the president and fractional CRO of Growth Plan Partners. And so what we've done is we've taken all those gifts and we have put them all in one place just for you. We call it the Salesology Vault. And it's packed full of free gifts from sales leaders, sales experts, marketing gurus, revenue generation experts. And we add another gift every single week. We release a podcast every Monday. And when we do, we add a gift. So you can log in as often as you'd like. You can download as many gifts as you'd like. It's all free. The link to the Salesology Vault is in the show notes. So as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link, download your gifts. You'll be glad you did. And we are back with my special guest, John Noonan, who is the president and fractional CRO of Growth Plan Partners. Welcome back, John.
Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it.
So let's talk about documentation and the sales playbook. Well, first of all, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard?
Yeah, it's we're running 1,000 miles a minute and nobody wants to stop to document, right? It's like, just keep going, generate more sales. And very few put the time in to either do it themselves, which may be difficult for you, so then hire somebody to do it. Plus, some people, I guess, take the tendency, well, I don't want to be pinned down, the world's changing. If I document something, then I got to keep on top of it and it drives me crazy. I mean, that may be the case, but I mean, you have to give somebody a good understanding of what needs to be done to be proficient at their job. Okay. So, we highly encourage the documentation of all of your main sales items. And we include things like I talked about before, your value proposition, who are your ideal clients, who's your competition, and what are their strengths and weaknesses. A lot of companies don't spend much time there. They're just like, hey, we're great, we're powerhouses. Well, you should know who's around you and what they're saying as well, because you may need to retort it, or maybe you just need to walk away because they do have something for a certain client that you can't compete with at this time. But your calling and your email scripts, the things that you work on, those all should be documented and available for people. Your buyer personas and your ideal client profiles, all this information needs to be listed. Now, one of the things we're offering today is a AI playbook, and it's actually pretty cool because instead of just building a PDF or a Word document that people are going to go to, now we're gonna still build those, and we're gonna put them on our hard drives in our systems. But today's playbooks now have a AI component similar to ChatGPT. Okay. And the way this works is we're going to build that playbook we talked about. Maybe we're going to put it on a hard drive in a system. We're going to have all that information available there. But we're also going to take those bots I talked about before and place them on your email systems, on your LinkedIn, on your CRM systems, and your own internal hard drives. Okay. So not just the things that you documented in this, let's say detailed playbook that you've got a directory for. The internal versions of ChatGPT search engines, okay, will actually go out and utilize the balance of the information that you have in your organization to expand upon the question. So instead of a salesperson having to read something from page 1 to page 20, today they can simply go to their computer, open up the chat engagement, and simply say, list for me the top 5 industries that I should be pursuing. Okay. And it will go out and say, here's sales to those top 5 industries. Here's customers that we currently do business from those 5 industries. If you want to look at emails between them. So this is going out and looking at all affiliated information, just like a ChatGPT may be utilized. It takes a lot to explain this and see it in operation, but that's where this industry is going. We're taking the basics, and then we're throwing all the technology on top of it to make sure, we haven't missed anything, and there's not more to it that can be determined based on evaluating all this knowledge and documentation you already have in your company. If that all makes sense, I hope.
Yes, but my question is, if you have nothing and you have to get started, you have to start with the basics.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you get the basics done so that you can add the technology, the AI, everything else on top of it?
Sure. Yeah. Your sales leader or someone like me should be doing that. That is something that I do for my clients. All right. So I will build the playbook for my clients over the time that I'll be working with them. So again, we talked before about, ideal clients or competitive analysis. Upon completion of that, I give them a summary of everything that we've decided, discussed, and that becomes a piece of this playbook, all right, that goes into the system. So you develop it over time, a piece at a time, and it should be the responsibility of the sales leader. Now, the owner is the sales leader. I realize this can be overwhelming, so you're going to want to bring some help in, whether it's someone like myself or even just, someone that is good at documentation, and get yourself a good outline of it and even start it on ChatGPT. In fact, it's funny. I would suggest if you don't know how to do it, just go to regular ChatGPT and say, develop an outline for a sales playbook for me to use for my business, which is this business in these markets doing this kind of stuff at this size. And it'll probably give you a pretty good outline of where to get started. So.
And here's something that might also help to streamline the process. I actually have a client that's going through this right now because they don't have any real documentation, and they've got 4 salespeople. And she said to me, oh my God, how am I ever going to be able to document all of this? And I told her to have each of the 4 salespeople document what they are doing right now. It won't be perfect. It won't be complete, but at least it'll be a starting point, and you'll have their scripts, their emails, the things that they're doing, and you can compile it, edit it, add to it, or bring in that outside person to work on it. But at least that'll give you a starting place for what your people are actually doing right now.
Exactly. And I absolutely love that. And especially, business is like life. It's a lot of trial and error, right? And there's no perfect solution to anything. But when we talked about CRM systems before, if you have your salespeople sending out their emails from the CRM system, or they're doing maybe a mass mailing to a certain category, whatever, you're going to get all that data back. So you're going to see what works. You're going to see how many people actually look at this email, how many open it, and then you share. It's like, okay, 2 salespeople tried these methodologies, and not a great reaction. So other salesperson tried this, wow, big reaction. Share it. Let everybody else try it, and expand upon that. So that's what some of these technologies allow you to do. This kind of A/B comparison now. Just keep the stuff out there. Not everything is going to work, but it'll help you define what definitely doesn't work and what works better, and you'll continue moving forward in that upper category.
Absolutely. So I know, John, you have a gift. You have a gift for all of our listeners. So please tell us about your gift.
Sure. Well, I'd like to give you that free sales analysis that I talked about. Okay. So there'll be a link at the end of the podcast. As I said, there'll be the notes from the podcast there. And my link is in there. This is the more simple one, just 10 questions. Just answer 10 questions for me. And we could have a quick conversation, and I'm happy to give you some very free advice on what I think you should do based on your current situation. And if I can help you further and we have a further discussion, that's great too. But please take the test. Let me use all of my knowledge and skills, as well as these hundreds of people at Sales Acceleration that help me develop these things, and I'll bring that to bear for you and kind of show you where to get started to make the greatest impact in your company.
Okay. And I know I'm going to be doing that assessment the moment we finish this interview.
All right, great.
So to do the assessment, as soon as you finish listening to this podcast, go to the show notes, click on the link for the assessment, and John will help you.
Great.
And if people want to connect with you, John, people want to find you, where can people find you?
I believe, again, in your show notes, you're going to have my LinkedIn profile. You can always go there. If you click on the contact button, I have my email and my web page and everything else. And I think you're going to post my web page as well. So it's all in there. But LinkedIn's always a great source to that contact piece. My email, my website, and anything else you may need from me.
Okay, wonderful. And John is indeed right. As soon as you finish listening to this podcast, if you want to connect with John, go to the show notes. We're going to have his website. We're going to have his LinkedIn profile. Click on the link and connect with John.
Thank you.
So thank you for this great interview today, John.
Thank you.
Great information.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, you've been listening to Salesology Conversations with Sales Leaders with my special guest, John Noonan, who is the President and Fractional CRO of Growth Plan Partners. And if you found value in listening to today's podcast, then please think of one sales leader, one business owner, one entrepreneur, somebody that you know that you think might also find value in listening to this podcast, and please do share the link with them. And until we meet again, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, really large bills.
You've been listening to Salesology, Conversations with Sales Leaders, the art of faster, easier, more profitable sales. Be sure to follow so that you don't miss a single episode. And while you're at it, please leave a rating and review, and be sure to share it with your friends. Tune in every week for more exciting insights and wisdom on transforming sales. And until next time, visualize yourself surrounded by cash, very large bills.